release of their comeback album, Immortalized, Disturbed put hard rock radio on notice. They stated that they wanted to reclaim the throne that they had abandoned years earlier whenever they took their hiatus. Yes, Disturbed has certainly been one of the biggest bands of the past 15 to 20 years, coupling with other artists such as Godsmack or Slipknot, Limp Bizkit, Korn, and Linkin Park in order to form the movement that most people know as nu metal. Now, Disturbed themselves consider themselves more of a hard rock band, but that's a debate that we'll get to. Trust me. So just, hold on to your panties. But just because this is a group that was able to spawn a fan base overnight, considering their debut album went 4 times platinum, doesn't mean that everybody's so willing to be down with the sickness. No, in fact, if you can listen very carefully, oh shit, that's the sound of 10,000 fists and 10,000 voices about to crash this party and tell us exactly why you should love Disturbed and adore them. But we're talking today about 5 reasons why people hate Disturbed. And we are going to start, as always, because numbers work in a, pristine fashion, with number 5. Number 5 is the fan base. This is surprising considering typically on these lists, the fan base is a little bit higher up. It usually ascends to the higher patriarchies of this list. Yes, that's an SJW reference. Ha ha he he winky face. This is instead one that is a lot lower considering, personally, my interactions with fans have been relatively chill. Now, I kind of dig Disturbed. The Sickness is a throwback album for me to the days whenever I was a tiny coverkillernation. When things were a little bit simpler, whenever you could walk down the halls with a Disturbed t-shirt on and everybody would take a look at it and say, hey, what's up with the funny face on your shirt? That funny face is actually, no, your face is funnier, never mind, carry on. But this is something that, I guess, in other regions of the globe, the great world that we live in, there have been Disturbed fans that have flipped shit over the fact that you don't believe that David Drayman's the best vocalist of all time. Either that or that David Drayman and Disturbed deserve to be in the pantheon of the great hard rock groups of the age. Yes. In fact, I talked with a fan quite a while ago that stated that whenever he stated that Disturbed was an even top 25 caliber, that nearly got the shit kicked out of him based off of this. Amazing stuff. But then again, like I said, I've never really had too much of an interaction with them, but people say that they can be extremely combative whenever it comes to their favorite band. Sounds like a fan base to me. Number 4, their major comeback is with a cover song. Now, that cover song is, of course, The Sound of Silence. It was originally done by Simon and Garfunkel. It's on Disturbed's brand new record, Immortalized. It is a huge hit that's been sweeping the globe. It has been cascading up the charts and doing extremely well, and people seem to just want to rain on that parade. The original Sound of Silence was a very quiet song, one that had a very quiet sort of, cry to it, and Disturbed, and David Drayman specifically, was able to give this some time-honored justice. Now, this is one that the loudness war certainly influenced a bit. The original is one whose silent pace and silent, tone really helped to register it as a real, cry from sort of the underground or a cry from the forgotten realm. Whereas with David Drayman, it's one that has a little bit more of a pensiveness to it, but at the same time also one that has a lot of heart behind it. But there's a lot of folks that feel that just because this song is the one that's sweeping the nation and not, say, the Vengeful One or any of the other singles off of Immortalized, that they are just cashing in on the fact that they did a really, really good cover. Sounds like the same people that hate Device, which I hate Device, but not for those reasons. I actually thought the cover that was on that album was one of the highlights. Number 3, they're hard rock, not metal. I told you we were going to get to this, and here we are. Welcome to Foxville, considering this is not one that's going to go away anytime soon or probably ever. If you go to a music store, you're going to find Disturbed in the heavy metal section, unless that music store is Walmart, or unless that music store doesn't have a heavy metal section, in which case you're going to find them in pop rock. Certain people feel that that's the way that it should be. They should always be in pop rock. They should be in pop rock because that's where hard rock groups are. That's where Def Leppard is. That's where Aerosmith is. That's where Sleeping with Sirens is. Yay! We're getting on this topic again. Personally speaking, I think Disturbed actually sort of deserves to be over in the heavy metal section. They have a tone that's certainly registers. In fact, a lot of new metal groups definitely deserve to be a part of the heavy metal section. Why? Because metal's right there in the name, and it does play an important part in heavy metal's history. And sometimes you have to include some stuff that a lot of people don't like, because it's part of what they like. That's a really weird statement. But yeah, new metal. Metal's right there in the name. Anyway, we're getting into the debate. The debate is really silly. Either way, it's not really one that's all of that large of a problem. The band themselves have identified themselves as closely geared to a hard rock band, so throw them in the pop rock section. But their sound definitely does have a little bit of a register to it, so throw them in the metal section. Godsmack's in the hard rock section. Disturbed's kind of like them, so throw them in the pop rock section. this is definitely the plight of fringe line bands such as this one. And really, the correct answer is that there is no correct answer, and there's also no wrong answer. Whether you consider this group a hard rock band or a heavy metal band is really up to you, but this is one that gets a lot of attention. Those detractors feel that since this band is labeled as a metal band, they are a poser metal band, or poser this or poser that. Those that say that it's a hard rock band then get the other side that says, no, they're a metal band, they're hard, they're heavy, they're rock, they're the best, it's just a really, really big ball of confusion. Number 2, boring and generic. Yes, this is probably one of the biggest things you're going to get whenever it comes to this group. Now, whenever The Sickness came out, it was one that felt like it painted things in a different tone. They used different colors. Either that or they invented brand new colors. Yes, Disturbed, the newest employees of Crayola. But this is something that certainly has been a sort of a trademark complaint over a lot of Disturbed detractors for a number of years, probably for more than a decade. That each and one of their albums feel like they have sort of the same makeup to it, that there's nothing much that really separates them from one another. And really, the funny thing is that whenever The Sickness came out, shortly after that, David Draymond came out and said that he didn't want to do some of the tones that he did on The Sickness on songs such as Stupefy, either that or tracks such as Down with the Sickness. He didn't want to be known as a one-dimensional singer that was known only for those little tropes and tricks. The funny thing is that a lot of people either feel that he should have never employed those at all, or that he should have employed them throughout everything, considering it would have probably given the music that was delivered a little bit more art or a little bit of difference from everything else that was coming out from the movement. This is another really confusing argument, simply because the group has definitely stayed within a comfort zone, and it's one that affected me a bit as a fan, considering I was a fan of The Sickness. It's one that didn't lead me to want to explore their other albums with quite so much fervor, because they did start to sound quite derivative. However, to say that they are completely generic is, okay, there is a little bit of accuracy to it. A lot of the albums that came out in the 2000s do have a bit of a similar tone to them, and they're a band that certainly seemed to embrace the idea that they were successful and wanted to hold on to that as quickly as possible and as easily as possible. But based off of that, I would say that's one of the reasons why the hiatus happened. It was something where even with them holding on to that and not doing something all of that original and just doing it for the money, the lulz, and the good gift of music, it still was one that wore and tore on them quite a bit. Number 1, David Draymond's voice and David Draymond's personality. This is the largest complaint that you will find about this band in any circle, and it's been based off of numerous things. You remember a long time ago whenever we did the Mount Rushmore of Shut the Fuck Up? Well, at one point in time, David Draymond was doing a really good job to get himself up on that Mount Rushmore. Probably where Gene Simmons once, or is now, would have probably previously held David Draymond's face, because there was a time where he was literally everywhere in the heavy metal news, complaining about something, whether it be complaining about the music industry, complaining about the metal industry, complaining about, older metal superstars like Lemmy collecting Nazi paraphernalia, which, well, you take a look at Dave and you take a look at his background, kind of makes a little bit of sense, I suppose, but, to each their own should really be the flavor of the week whenever it comes to that. And then it comes to his voice. We spoke about this in number 2, where his voice on The Sickness and some of those tropes were one thing that really gave Disturbed a lot of life, that made them sound a little bit different. And then he opted that he did not want to be known as that guy. Well, David, here's a little tip for you. You're still known as that guy, considering those are the songs that are often the go-to tracks whenever it comes to hard rock / heavy metal radio station throwback weeks. Either that or whenever they have to do a block of Disturbed songs and they've already played The Sound of Silence. This is just something that is the absolute reality of it. And the voice is also one that, whenever it comes to external forces, whenever it comes to the fans, the detractors, is not one that is really widely accepted and widely beloved. A lot of people feel that this is just an act, a very, feel tough act, and kind of ignore the fact that he does have a softer side, but then again, it's done so infrequently that it's kind of easy to make that mistake. But either way, this is certainly one that is heard about constantly, that David Draymond's personality, his voice, his opinions, basically everything about this guy kind of brings him off as a bit of a douchebag. And then you consider that whole device thing, and the whole thing just becomes full circle. A perfect circle. When's the new Tool album coming out? Wah, I'm a baby. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 5 reasons why people hate Disturbed. If you think that something was left off this list, leave it in the comments below. And if you think that there's another band that should be roasted and toasted and burnt to a crisp by this series, leave that in the comments as well. My name is CoverKillerNation, and I will talk to you guys next time. See you later.